If you save and operate in US dollars, well, your life is going to get more expensive because the value of those dollars is going to go down. You're going to face inflation. If you operate in Bitcoin, the value of those will go up, and the price of everything in your life conversely will go down and get cheaper over time. People fear a capital gain, but a capital gain means you avoided the real tax, which is inflation, currency debasement, the dollar going down. What's the difference? The dollar going down or Bitcoin going up? And so, of course, Bitcoin's going to go up, and you're going to have capital gains when living a life with more Bitcoin, but it's a good thing. That means you avoided dollar debasement. That means you avoided inflation.
Jack Mallers begins by addressing a universal issue, inflation. He underscores how inflation is not just a number on an economic report, but a lived experience for individuals worldwide. The rising cost of living, stagnant wages, and the perpetual struggle to afford basic needs all stem from the fundamental flaw of fiat currencies. Over the past century, the US dollar has steadily lost value, a decline mirrored in its purchasing power. Mallers introduces Bitcoin as the antidote to inflation. Unlike the dollar, Bitcoin cannot be printed or debased. Its fixed supply of 21 million coins ensures scarcity, which over time has led to its value appreciating. He frames Bitcoin as the ultimate high-yield savings account, one that not only preserves but grows purchasing power. While some critics point to Bitcoin's volatility, Mallers argues that its long-term trajectory has been consistently upward, making it a reliable store of value for those willing to hold through short-term fluctuations.
Please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. You can also check out our other videos on cryptocurrencies and the overall digital asset space and drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything you do helps with the YouTube algorithm and immensely contributes to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
Everyone right now is facing inflation, is facing currency debasement, is facing living a life that gets more expensive for them every single day, no matter how hard they're working. And I myself sat back and asked, how can I live a life without inflation? So first, to better understand the problem, we have to understand the dollar and fiat currencies at large. The reality is inflation is caused because the dollar has just gone down over time. Over the last 100 years, the dollar has done nothing really but just go down in value. Now, this isn't generally unknown, but it's super important to appreciate and realize. Another way of putting this is in purchasing power. So this is maybe a more direct graphic, which is how much can my dollar get? How much can my dollar purchase me in goods and services? And all it's done over time is just go down. And that's because you can print as many as you want and it can be debased. Now, another way of putting this is inflation. Is the purchasing power just goes down over time or inflation just goes up over time, but they're the same thing. So you can use them interchangeably. When people say inflation is up, another way of saying that is the dollar is down. The dollar is getting you less stuff. It's less purchasing power. It's going down in value. And that is the core issue and the core problem. And the reason people's lives are getting more expensive every day, every week, every month, every year is because the dollar is getting less valuable every day, every week, every month, every year. And that is the issue that everyone is facing. Now, this graphic might hit hard, but it's true. What we're looking at is in yellow and blue is the median house price in New York and in Boston, two major cities in the United States of America. Now, in red and in gray is the median household income in those same cities, New York and Boston. And the point is to illustrate everything in our life is going up in price by a lot. Look at those yellow and blue lines. So this is housing inflation. But we're not getting paid more. And that's where it feels painful. Is it feels like we're having to work harder. We're having to take on 2 jobs. We're having to work longer just to try and stay afloat and get the same stuff that we had 10 years ago. And this graphic shows exactly that, is people are getting paid around the same, but the price of housing is going up drastically, which we describe as inflation. Another way to think about it is how long does it take for someone to save up for a house? In 1970, it was about 2.5 years. In 2020, it was 7 years. And this is before COVID and all the inflation that we faced over the last 4 years, which we know in the United States of America was record levels of inflation. So who knows? Maybe this number is 10 years or 20 years at this point. But this is 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x the amount of time that people have to work just to get the same house. And this is the problem. It's living a life that gets more expensive no matter how hard you work. How can we solve that problem? Now, when I was asking myself this question, obviously, I'm reminded that Bitcoin is the opposite of the dollar, actually. If the dollar only goes down over time because people can print more of it and debase it, Bitcoin has only gone up over time because no one can print more of it and no one can debase it. And so, if you take the housing idea and you say, well, hold on a second, let's do the same housing inflation exercise, but let's do it in Bitcoin, you realize that housing in Bitcoin actually gets cheaper over time. The price of a house goes down. Maybe the price of a house was 1,000 Bitcoin in 2016, but now it's a couple Bitcoin to get the average American home in all of these major cities. And so it works reversely, right? This graphic is very simple. If you save and operate in US dollars, well, your life is going to get more expensive because the value of those dollars is going to go down. You're going to face inflation. If you operate in Bitcoin, the value of those will go up, and the price of everything in your life, conversely, will go down and get cheaper over time. Another way to think about it is Bitcoin like a savings account. So I took Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, and if you were to open a savings account there where you collect, interest payments and they pay you to save, you're talking about getting $5, $15, $25 over the last 1, 3, and 5 years on a $50,000 savings account. Now, if you were to live on Strike and on Bitcoin with the same amount of money, you're talking about getting $69,000, $34,000, $600,000 in purchasing power, in price appreciation. Talking about a high yield savings account is a way to think of it, up 140%, 69.5%, and over 1,200%, right? So the question I asked myself in first principles thinking was, wait a second, why would I own any of the money that only goes down, which is the dollar? If you think of it that way and not like, well, I have to go to the grocery store, how am I going to pay for these things? And just think, well, the dollar only goes down, the dollar only gives me inflation, the dollar only makes my life more expensive. Why do I own any of it? It's a good question. And then the second question is, why not only own the money that just goes up, right? If I could, why don't I just own Bitcoin? Obviously it can be volatile at times, but with time, it just goes up and is a great way to save and make my life cheaper the more I work and the more I save. People fear a capital gain, but a capital gain means you avoided the real tax, which is inflation, currency debasement, the dollar going down. What's the difference? The dollar going down or Bitcoin going up? And so, of course, Bitcoin's going to go up and you're going to have capital gains when living a life with more Bitcoin, but it's a good thing. That means you avoided dollar debasement. That means you avoided inflation.
Mallers envisions a world where Bitcoin adoption goes beyond personal finance and transforms the global economy. He draws parallels to historical innovations that reshaped society, likening Bitcoin to a foundational technology with far-reaching implications. He also touches on the growing ecosystem of Bitcoin-based solutions, from payment platforms like Strike to Layer 2 technologies that enhance scalability and usability. These innovations make Bitcoin not just a savings tool, but a practical medium of exchange for everyday transactions.
And I think it'll be the financial system. I think people suddenly they'll be going, oh, so-and-so's building on this layer 2 and so-and-so's doing this. And then people will go, oh, I get it now. My thesis was that they just overbuilt block space for where we were. But that was forward planning for a future because we're going to need a lot of block space. And Ethereum is very secure. It's interoperable across a whole bunch of EVM stuff. And nobody gets fired for building on it. And so it'll be fine. It'll be just fine.
The question really is over the next year or two during this next bull phase, Is there anything that we see growing? You're the exponential guy, exponentially, that we're not really focused on right now? Like, do you have one of those outlier ideas, maybe something that's starting to creep?
I think, listen, the one that I think is probably the biggest of all in terms of numbers, outside of like gaming and stuff we all know about, it's ID. It's digital ID and proof of AI, proof of humanity. It's this idea that you're saying of the security truth layer of blockchain is going to become, it's very, very important. Now, I know WorldCoin are doing it. I met another group recently doing it, but
Ledger is working on something also.
That's right. Ledger's got this as one of their big ideas. I think that's wildly underpriced, because
How are we going to monetize that? I mean, how?
it's just
We're markets guys, right? Like it's so much easier for me to, figure out how a business what's connected to.
I would just say it's just on-chain activity. Just owning the token of the chain. The business, look, I don't know. They'll figure something out, but that's less interesting to me than bringing 385 million Americans and forcing them into using zero knowledge proof of who you are for all of the US government infrastructure. I mean, that creates a lot of activity. Driving licenses, all of that kind of stuff, So I think that's an area. Is it investable for you? Maybe, maybe not. Don't know. I think you're right that DeFi is still wildly underpriced. I think big pools of capital like Apollo, Blackstone, these huge pools will lend into these markets now, because it's just lending markets. They know how to do this, but they've not been able to. So we can see a massive amount of liquidity coming into these.
Yeah, I love the borrowing lending business, because no one wants to sell their Bitcoin. So it's obvious, makes sense.
The other one that,
I was just saying, every cycle we get hit with something that we never, anticipated. That you were involved in the art and NFT stuff. Does that come back?
Yeah, I mean, it's already happening. The high end of the art market is ripping, and there's very little available already.
Jack Mallers' passionate advocacy for Bitcoin offers a compelling vision of a future where individuals can reclaim control over their financial destinies. By highlighting the stark contrast between the declining value of the dollar and the appreciating value of Bitcoin, Mallers makes a powerful case for why Bitcoin is not just an investment, but a necessity in today's economic landscape. As we navigate an era of unprecedented financial challenges, Bitcoin provides a beacon of hope, a decentralized, deflationary alternative to the status quo. Whether you're a seasoned investor or someone just beginning to explore the world of cryptocurrency, Mallers' insights invite us all to consider how Bitcoin could reshape our approach to money, savings, and the pursuit of a better life.
Please like and subscribe my channel.